Welcome to Just the Myth. Sometimes you're not in the right headspace to listen to a guy talk about stretching the muscle and tearing the fascia, but you still want to listen to that guy mispronounce mythological names despite his best well-researched efforts. This is for you. On Just the Myth, I'll cast aside the fitness portion of Fitness and Folklore entirely. There's just some myths out there that I love and believe should be shared that don't quite fit in with the nature of mythic muscle. You and I will explore those tales in this series, along with maybe just a tinge of history. Just the Myth's sibling, Just the Fit, is probably more your speed if you're looking for something actionable. Something you can directly apply in the gym for your own edifice. Of course, if you need a bit of both, Mythic Muscle's still there waiting for you. And hey, if you're not interested in the myth and you're just here to support me, you've got a very, very special place in my heart. Thank you. If you want to support me further, you can find me on nearly every social media platform. Patreon, my preferred platform, TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Patreon, and Instagram by searching for Mythic Muscle Podcast and looking for the helmet crossed with a barbell and the microphone. It's always seemed to me that sightings of cryptids or legends of witchcraft seem to spawn from the start of November until the end of February. And, in accordance with that observation of mine, let me take you back to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, November 15th, 1966. It's the dead of night, and a pair of gravediggers are at their posts, hewing earth and shivering in the frosty gale. Their flashlights have since died. The only light they maintain is that of the moon's glaring embrace. When suddenly, as they plunge their shovels into the soft earth, they lose sight of their hands. Not that they were taken from them, but that their sight was stolen. The moon had been blotted out for a brief moment, and in that moment the gravediggers craned their necks to the sky. Like an ornithopter pirouetting through the night sky, the two men see a gargantuan figure of black fur and red eyes, bearing a pair of massive feathery wings. It stares down upon them, seemingly taking their measure. They blink, attempting to make right of what this creature is, and in between their shuddering eyelids, the creature vanishes into the oaks, obscuring itself within the tree line. The two gravediggers raced to the authorities, and shortly after, sightings of this creature began popping up everywhere. Late-night drives turned into late-night visitations of the creature, and in time, it would accrue a sort of mythical status among the people of Point Pleasant. One particular sighting places itself as the foremost center of the Mothman's myth, the Silver Bridge collapse. During a particularly blustery December day in 1967, the Silver Bridge suspension bridge collapsed, tragically taking the lives of 46 people. What's important about this bridge is that it connects Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio. It's a well-traveled bridge and necessary for the commerce of Point Pleasant at the time. Shortly before the bridge's collapse, onlookers described feeling a strange, ominous sensation, a thin veil of anxiety overwhelming them suddenly, as if they were anticipating the collapse without the knowledge of its coming. When that strange, sudden anxiety reached a fever pitch, there he was, hugging the top post of the bridge, staring down upon the people of Point Pleasant. The minute people had noticed the Mothman, the bridge collapsed. It is due to this incident and the Mothman's presence during it all that his mythical nature began to corrupt. His reputation swiftly became one of destruction and ill will. Point Pleasant's infatuation with the cryptid found itself quickly turning to hysteria. The town was taken by storm, all in abject fear of this strange demonic creature. Reports of the Mothman continued, and commensurate reports of men in black suits driving black cars with black tinted windows began to arise as well. At every natural disaster, he was there. Allegedly doctored photos of the Mothman sprouted at these disaster sites, and the people of Point Pleasant completely disavowed theories that the cryptid was a falsehood. As we move through the decades, the Mothman becomes a staple of folklore, and inspires huge movement within the world of cryptid study. He also becomes a sort of mascot for the town of Point Pleasant, where on basically any street corner you can find vendors selling Mothman merchandise. Perhaps as a sales move, the Mothman lost his villainous status and instead adopted one of a sentient portent or omen. Pictures of him arose near the World Trade Center just before 9/11, sightings of him flying over Honshu just before the Tohoku earthquake. If something bad happened, there's an intense likelihood that the Mothman's presence would be reported. And as his position as an omen of ill tidings, people had begun to view him as an individual who can see into the future, and to look at his presence as a warning instead of causality. Today, the Mothman is one of the most well-documented cryptids, with thousands of stories written about him and an equal amount of sightings reported. He's a huge pop culture figure and my buddy Rex's favorite cryptid. Shout out to Rex. Either way, if you catch a glimpse of a 10-foot-tall, jet-black furred winged man, find cover. Though I'm not sure I have to say that. You take a deep breath. The air out here is different. You're used to the mountains, and these trees aren't like the ones at home. How'd you even get here? Park Ranger, then District Ranger of the National Forest Services, and now, after that whole Baba Yaga thing, you're the nation's leading cryptid investigator. The title's a little esoteric, but the kids think it's cool, and somehow it's a pay increase. Their mother's been dragging you through the mud on social media for it, but the only person in her comments who agrees with her is that sleazy-ass real estate agent she's now engaged to. Lost in thought again, you hear your former range officer, now deputy investigator, say from inside the truck. You blink a few times and look over to him with a nod. Should be just a few more clicks out. Truck won't make it over the bridge. Best to move on foot, you reply back to him. He shuts the truck off and slaps the keys on the dash. You begin to set out, when you feel a weighty thud across your back, and a slap of metal and polymer rings out across the forest floor. Almost forgot your 44 again, boss, he says, as he staggers up to you offering a flask. You've put it down since the divorce. Don't feel much better for it, though. You reject the offer and continue over the bridge. As you look over the railing, you clock the car reported to have gone over the side. Your deputy asks if it's worth investigating. You tell him it's better to leave it for the way out. The old, broken wood bridge buckles a tad under your combined weight, but you make it across without so much as a misstep. According to the dossier, the thing stalking in this forest, which frightened the driver enough to run the car into the trench of the bridge, is a four-legged, massive creature with a huge snout, and it's a bear. You know it's a bear. Most of your calls end up like this. Turns out to be a bear or a fox screaming in the woods. Rarely do you ever get anything worth investigating. Still get paid regardless. Boss, you hear the deputy call out. He's kneeling over the track with his flashlight drawn. Yep, you say? Those are bear tracks. Big one, though. It's not a black bear. The spread of the toes from the heel of the paw is too large, and the indents of the claws are far too small. They're like pinpricks. You've never heard of a grizzly bear come this far south, though. Well, hell, you say out loud and turn to your deputy. This might be something after all. Following the tracks, you're led deep into the forest brambles, crimson oak and poison sumac in abundance. Surely enough, you find the mouth of a small cave, prime bear den territory. Bear's not your purview anymore. You deal in cryptids, and you've no interest in displacing the thing. You do a quick search of the cave with a flashlight and confirm that this is a bear's dwelling. Strange though, there's a significant amount of carcasses piled against the far cave wall. Bears typically keep their dens clean. The only real marker for a bear's den is a leaf bed, which you certainly see. The carcasses don't make sense though. What's stranger is, it's the end of November. Where the hell is the bear? Casey, it's rare you call your deputy's name, and it immediately sobers him up. He looks to you from the entrance of the den. Give the Division of Forestry a call. We might need a bit more muscle for this. You speak to him in a near whisper. Left my phone in the truck, your deputy admits. You wave off the hesitation. No, it's better we head back anyway. 44 won't do much to a bear of this size if it comes down to it, you assure him. And you'd really rather it not come down to it. The two of you step out of the den and immediately are on guard. The hairs on the back of your neck stand at attention and your breath goes cold. You track your way back out the way you'd gotten here, following the paw prints. As you reach the wooden bridge, both you and your deputy stop dead in your stride. Atop the bridge, staring down at you with its glaring red eyes, is a creature so dark in complexion light seems to get trapped within its massive form. Wings flat against a muscular back, postured like a gargoyle on a cathedral buttress. There's no mistaking this thing. You look to your deputy. He knows it too. Both of you are about to be in deep shit if you don't get the hell out of Dodge. You keep your eyes pressed to it as you pass onto the bridge threshold. It buckles much more now from the weight of you, your deputy, and the creature above you. Halfway across the bridge, you hear the rotted support beams crack a bit, and both you and your deputy burst into a dead sprint. The bridge is on its last legs, but you're across and nearing the truck. Casey hits the truck and immediately starts it. The engine turns over once, twice, 3 times, and finally it ignites. You reach for the back seat and pull out the Remington 870. You heard the thing was big. It's better to bring out the 20 gauge. Shotguns aren't your thing, But you're not taking chances here. As you begin walking to the opposing side of the truck, you hear rustling, and stop your movement to assess. A gentle raking of claw on wood draws your head to the top of the bridge, where you see the Mothman slowly walking toward you, drawing its legs across the wood in a deep crouch, like an owl moving along a tree branch, playfully. God, that's unsettling, you think to yourself. But the thought is stolen from you, as the groaning of the wood foundations blares out into the forest air. Thick claws rapaciously gouge swaths of rotting wood from the floor of the bridge, as a behemoth of immense proportions begins stalking toward you. And as you see it in the flesh, you now understand the reasoning for the car ditching itself into the trench. Two things. One, it's a grizzly bear. Two, it's picking up speed. You sink the first two shots into the front haunches of the beast, remiss that you've got to do this, but the bear doesn't give two shits about you feeling sorry for it. Your deputy is on the phone in the truck. You can hear him shouting the word bear over and over as his cell reception starts to die. It collides with the truck at speed and sends the vehicle end over end further down the trail. You watch your deputy get flung from the windshield and thrown against a tree as the bear turns its attention toward you. The truck landed on its wheels, and Casey isn't too far from it. Thinking on your feet, you begin weaving between the trees, only to hear the boughs snap as the bear races behind you. One of the trees collides with another of its kind, sending an oak trunk straight toward you. The last thing you hear is the thud of your skull connecting with the oak, with a wet crunching sound following in tow. You're awoken by the sobbing of the young deputy, currently hovering over your pinned body. He looks to you as your eyes struggle to shutter open, and puts his index finger to his lips. You can't move very well, but with his help you manage to flip over. Pain immediately thrashes through your body, as you look down at where your foot should be and isn't. You see it. In between you and the bear, the blood caked across its snout's matted fur. It seems stunned, and that's when Casey crouches to you and whispers, "Look up." Craning your neck with all of your might, you see stood atop the tree branch which has you pinned to the ground, that creature, its red eyes fixated upon the bear, its wings outstretched, imposing its massive size. The bear gives a couple of lowly growls and takes a step toward your disembodied foot. As it does, you hear a great blast of wind as the creature above you flexes its wings. The bear staggers backward and roars. You watch 6 small flashes of light from the tree line. The bear staggers a bit more and drops to the ground with a weighty thud. You lose consciousness again. Casey's holding your hand. As you look around the ambulance, he quickly explains the situation as best he can. Nothing supernatural about it, just a grizzly who freed itself from a local zoo. The forestry department tranked it and are tending to the small bores you managed to make in it. He suggests a 12 gauge for next time. He looks to be in pretty dire straits as well, but keeps a stoic look across his face, offering you the flask once again. You contemplate it for a moment, but reject it once again. The ambulance stops and the doors fling open. Hospital personnel flood the carriage, and as you're taken out of the vehicle, you catch a glance at the roof of the hospital. 2 red eyes staring you down, assessing the situation. As the transfer from the ambulance to the hands of the triage nurses finishes, you hear the beat of great wings getting further and further away. You're not sure whether to thank the creature or if it's partly to blame. Legend's true, I guess. You weakly eke out to the nurses around you. Whether or not the Mothman is just some strange hallucination, or if it really is a harbinger of destruction, one thing's for certain. You're better off not crossing its path. With that, I have been your host, Benjamin Cloud. This has been Just the Myth on the Mythic Muscle Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, a gnarly lift, or, if it's a rest day, go buy some kick-ass Mothman merch. Take care, folks. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. For only $3 a month, you get Discord access, and you buy me a protein bar. $5 a month gets you Discord access with special colors and emotes, blooper reels, shout out for me, and transcripts of each episode. $10 a month gets you all of that noise, a vote in our monthly poll, a personalized 10-second clip of whatever you want me to say, and every dollar spent at that tier goes right back into the podcast so that I might bring you a better listening experience. Follow my socials. You can find me on pretty much every platform by searching for Mythic Muscle Podcast and looking for the helmet crossed with the barbell and the microphone. If you made it this far, you're my favorite type of human. I hope you have a wonderful day, a fantastic lift, or if it's a rest day, you get some quality relaxation time. Thank you.